President Trump has officially declared war on one of Washington's most bloated bureaucracies, the Department of Education, saying we're going to move education into the states. That's what he's announced, so that the states, instead of the bureaucrats working in Washington, can actually run education. And right on cue, the meltdown began. One fired Department of Education employee called her termination demeaning. Imagine that, feeling entitled to your taxpayer-funded position while Americans' children fall further behind. CNN's Abby Phillip asked the predictable question, if the Department of Education is abolished, how will we ensure our kids are educated? Well, the answer is simple. I mean, they're not getting educated now. Test scores are plummeting, basic literacy is declining, and teachers' unions are more concerned with politics than performance. Now, here's a question for you, though, about your joint pain. Has it become a daily companion? Well, you're not alone. But before you reach for another over-the-counter pain reliever, you need to hear about this education system for your body. Just as President Trump is fixing our broken education bureaucracy, Dr. Josh has revolutionized how we address pain. He discovered the standard turmeric is like a failing school system. It looks right on paper, but delivers poor results. His specialized turmeric extract is 200 times more powerful, attacking inflammation at its source. It's like moving education control from Washington bureaucracies to local communities, dealing with the problem directly. Thousands of Americans have found relief without expensive surgeries or endless medications. The transformation's been remarkable, just like what we're seeing with Trump's education reform. So discover this revolutionary approach at goldenrevive.com/NNN today. You'll find it linked down below. Okay, President Trump had this to say on the Department of Education in the Oval Office just 24 hours ago. Let's listen.
40, they're not doing a good job, and if you take a look at our education process, and if you look at the charts, because they have numerous charts where they do the top 40, we're at number 37, 38, 39, and 40, and recently they hit, during Biden's last few days, they hit last, so they were number 40, and yet we're number 1 in cost per pupil. So it's pretty bad. But we have a dream, and you know what the dream is? We're going to move the Department of Education. We're going to move education into the states, so that the states, instead of bureaucrats working in Washington, so that the states can run education. And they're not.
That's exactly what needs to be done. The Department of Education has failed. Trump is delivering much-needed reform. And here we have Paul Zipula, Department of Education employee, says it's demeaning that she was fired. These Democrats really think they're untouchable. They also have no consideration for how the U.S. government is bloated or that the Department of Education is a useless waste. Listen to this.
Our jobs are angry. Are you worried? How is this sitting with you? I am definitely angry because I don't understand why I and my colleagues have been targeted for just doing our jobs. Our jobs are protecting the American public and their patient students. So it's very frustrating to not only have to endure the demeaning emails and ridicule that we're getting in the media, but to also have to lose your job when all you were doing was just following the law and enforcing that, or providing statistics to help teachers do their jobs. Angry? Are you worried?
Providing statistics so teachers can do their job. Oh, I got an email. Asked me what I did last week. They wanted to know 5 things. I couldn't think of 5 things. And now I feel like they don't care about me anymore. Well, I mean, some employees are taking that as an opportunity by highlighting their importance to government and their effectiveness and how they support the mission of that specific agency. But the ones who are whining and crying about it are the ones clearly the ones that don't need to be there. Give me a break. Cry me a river. Here we go. CNN. Abby Phillip wants to know, if the bureaucracy is abolished, how will we ensure our kids are being educated? Oh my, what a ridiculous question. Like, do you think that your local school would suddenly not figure it out. What are we going to do without the Department of Education? We're not getting handed down our globalist talking points anymore. How will we continue to program the young minds to be good global citizens? See, that's what it's all about. Centralized education. The United Nations hands down their talking points. It goes to the bureaucracy and the federal government, and then it gets trickled down into the local departments, your local school systems. They're going to sever that. It's going to be gone. And if there's anything that we need, local schools need to be isolated to their locale. And they only should be taught reading, writing, and arithmetic. All right? And history. That's it. The basics. Okay? Not to be confused as to which bathroom they should choose, or their teacher's chosen pronoun of the day. Or why is that flag hanging in the room? You see? That's part of the problem. But Abby Phillips thinks kids aren't going to get educated. But of course, the point is they are not being educated. Now they're being programmed.
Scores. Unfortunately, yes.
I don't think they're cutting the money. They want to send the money directly to the states.
That's it.
Respectfully, if this bureaucracy that is in place now at the federal and state level, no matter what state you're talking about, we're doing such a bang-up job, we wouldn't have these terrible reading scores. We wouldn't have these terrible math and science scores. Something is broken, and there's one more issue that no one's talking about, and that is the issue of truancy. We've got 30+% truancy rates in some places. Not only can these kids not read, we cannot even find them.
I would not disagree. Exactly. I would not disagree with either of you all on the fact that we are not preparing our children well enough.
But you want the state to control
that's not.
this?
Absolutely not. And let me tell you why. I want there to be oversight. I don't necessarily want there to be a bloated bureaucracy, but what I do want is every child in this country to have an opportunity to succeed, regardless. And you know, let me just tell you the biggest problem we have in this country, because you said unions. I will push back on you and say that the greatest problem we have is the fact that children are punished in this country because of the zip code that they're born into. And until you can find me some parity.
Different issue.
No, it's not. Actually, I mean,
you can solve it with school choice.
Hang on a second, Kevin. I mean,
the problem is that every choice wouldn't be it.
What Bakari is saying. Okay, let's say that you get rid of the bureaucracy at the Department of Education. How do you ensure that kids are actually being educated and that they're not just being moved out of...
You think at the state level they hate children?
And that they're not just being...
Do you think at the federal level they hate kids?
That they're not just being moved out of the public school system because it's easier to move them out than to educate them.
The one thing about education you can't deny is the reading and math scores. Unfortunately, that is the metric by which we test.
But do you understand my question?
No, I get it.
That if you take the lowest performing kids and you just take them out of the system, guess what those reading and math scores are going to do? They're going to go up. So how do you prevent schools
from doing that? For them to go up, you need great teachers.
Well, I think there's also a concept of teaching to the test, which actually doesn't create...
Take them out of the system? Is that what you think that's going to happen? Here's more from Mr. Wonderful, 100% correct, Brigitte Gabriel. American education is bad because of the teachers' unions.
These cuts a lot. I wanted to start from that premise and figure out how we can better educate our children. There are ways to do it other than draconian cuts. And I think in places like Mississippi, places like Arkansas, places like the great Commonwealth of Kentucky, South Carolina, North Carolina, they're going to fill these cuts a lot more.
May I respond?
Please. I mean, it's an open show.
As an individual who worked in the education system for 14 years, there's 110,000 high schools in America. The majority of them are in New York, Florida, Texas, and California. Our reading and math scores are the worst in the G7 and the G20 in terms of how many dollars we spend to advance our children.
Okay.
Why? Unions. Unions that keep mediocre teachers in place in every high school in America when we should be firing them. You want to talk about whack as our theme tonight's show? I would like to fire teachers that don't... Wait. And I'd like to pay a lot more to the teachers that advance math and reading scores that push our system forward against every G7, G20 country. We have broken the system long ago through unions. And this is very unpopular.
But what are those
can I
cuts
just-
actually
What it means is
impact unions?
the lowest paid person in America that deserves a lot more money is a great teacher.
I agree, as a
and
former
we can't,
teacher.
in the system of unions in America, we keep mediocrity festering, destroying the education of
Respectfully, let me
children.
just tell you how misguided your statement is.
Not at all.
But I mean, I'm just going to point out the fact
Thank
that...
goodness I'm here.
But you're wrong, and let me tell you why.
I'm 100% right.
No, I want to tell you why you're wrong. Because the bottom 10 states that are underperforming, those states that I'm talking about in the South, let's take South Carolina, for example, or Mississippi. You want to tell me one thing they don't have? One thing they don't have. Strong teacher unions. So there is no direct correlation.
They have weak teacher unions?
Or barely
But
any
they
at
have
all.
unions.
Yeah, but that's not the reason these places are failing.
So find
when was
me
the last time?
if you look at 10 teachers, 4 of them are great. I want to double their salaries.
That's no question. I agree with you.
So why don't you just get rid of
Now
unions?
what happens if you have a quarter of shame where kids go to school and their heating and air don't work, where their infrastructure is falling apart, where they have to drink unclean water, or they come
Send
to
the
school
money
hungry?
to the states. That's what Trump
How
is
does
doing.
that fix the problem I just laid out to
Well,
you?
you got to fix the unions first, because we both agree bad teachers destroy advancement of
So
children.
I just have a question. Are you saying that
I wanted to start from that crimson.
Yeah. So if they have bad water in the schools, the teachers' unions are going to fix that? I don't think so. Oh, man. Here's more. Democrats opposing school choice because they didn't think of it first. What?
100 miles. And
Does anyone believe in school choice at this table?
No.
I do. Why not?
The problem is that you have to make every school a good choice. And school choice works in metropolitan areas where you have things like transportation. But in the rural places, if you have 100 miles and you have 4 schools,
we trap a lot of urban kids in bad schools.
And the problem with that is that if you go to school choice, and I talk to Roland Martin and others about this all the time, you'll have something like white flight after Brown v. Board. But instead of white flight, you'll have the people who can't afford to leave that school will leave, and it will cause a drain at those schools.
I think we ought to give schools to the poorest kids to get them out of the worst schools as well.
Is it going to have transportation? But will it have transportation?
Oh, my goodness, man. Here we have Corey DeAngelis posting this. Congressman Burgess Owens calling out the main witness testifying against school choice for being a hypocrite. She went to a private school.
Children generally private school choice.
So did you go to a public school system?
No, I went to a private school.
Okay, you went to Head Royce School. Why? I spent time in Oakland. You had a choice in Oakland to go to public schools also. Why didn't your parents do that for you?
Well, I would remind you that children generally don't choose the school that they go to.
No, your parents
So
did. Your parents had a
correct.
choice. And your parents paid $30,000 to $50,000 a year for your choice. What gets me is how people like yourself, I would say this across the board, parents who have an option. They can put their kids in the best schools. They know that's an investment for their kids' future. And yet you come here and say how well it doesn't work. I just want to read this real quick. In reality, students who use voucher experience worse educational outcomes than their public school peers. Obviously, your parents didn't think that way because they put you in a private school.
Private school choice.
Yeah, and I just found this clip. Watch this, okay? Here is a girl's mother who just got fired from the Department of Education, and now she's going online to talk about it. Michael Juswick says the U.S. Department of Education was started by Democrat President Johnson, who some believe ordered the last best Catholic president to be offed. But U.S. public schools first got whacked by Satan when one atheist woman used her son, William Murray, to ban daily prayer and holy Bible reading.
Do most people. My mom, along with a lot of other people, lost her job today working for the Department of Education. She worked there for almost 5 years, but not quite, so she won't receive her pension. I have said this before, but I do not come from a wealthy family. My mom is a single mother. She raised my brother and I, and we lived paycheck to paycheck growing up. People ask why she's not with me more. She has to work to survive and support herself, as do most people. But she's always done the best that she could. It is even harder now because she won't have a job. I'm going to try to support her financially as best I can, as well as myself, while she looks for another job. I have a full-time job. I have really good health insurance, both things that I am really, really grateful for, as I've said before. But that doesn't mean that this isn't like a stressful and a scary situation for her and for so many other people who have lost their jobs. But just a reminder that you don't know everything about someone's situation. Not everyone has the perfect family. Not everyone has a wealthy family, but we're all just doing the best that we can. And my mom has always done the best that she could. And I will always be grateful for that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a human element, of course. But the sad part is that the government's grown so large and bloated that people are getting fired because those jobs are unnecessary or redundant. Here's one woman responding.
That helps your... Good morning. It's Monday. I have a question for those that have voted for this administration. Did you vote for the Department of Education to be taken out?
Yes.
Dismantled? Did you vote for that?
Yes.
I'm just curious. I'm sure you wanted them to change things, but dismantling a department that helps your children and helps a lot of people. Putting it with the states is not the answer, especially if the states don't have income taxes and if they're going to start taking those away too. Like, our children will hurt for this.
Oh, really?
They want to take away abortion. If you have a baby, you got to take care of it. They don't help you there. Then you take away education support. I'm curious.
Yeah, we did vote for it. And of course, right on cue, Randy Weingarten having a meltdown. The Department of Education gravy train is over and she's panicking.
Percent is why so many people are so mad about it, because they're just taking opportunity away from kids that don't have it. So kids of billionaires, they have it. They go to private schools. Everyone else, 90%, go to public schools. Don't take away their opportunity.
So let's stay on the facts.
Sorry,
no,
I'm
do
really
not apologize.
angry about this.
No, because this
I'm
is what
really
people
angry.
need to hear.
I taught kids in Clara Barton High School in Brooklyn, New York. This is why so many people are...
These people are delusional. They think that if the Department of Education disappears, that somehow, like, the kids aren't going to get any education. It's not going to change a thing. Oh, but then we have this. Did you hear this? Department of Education exposed. Staffers discuss ways to avoid Elon and his team. If caught, they'll just go to the beach. What?
That, like, I'm telling you, it is insanity.
It sounds like a bad movie.
Yeah. It's like Democracy Falling should be like the title of the movie. Like, they shut off everyone's access to everything. They're like in the building looking through everything.
They're in the building?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's Elon Musk's like efficiency team. They put software on our computers that like tracks keystrokes, so like they know exactly what we're saying in real time. Like they put monitors on like Teams, so like they can listen to the calls that we have with like team members or contractors. Like,
so have you been having them offline somewhere else?
I mean, if you want to have a conversation with somebody, you do have to take it offline, but you're not supposed to. So everybody uses that Snap called Signal now.
Nice. So you can do business stuff on there.
We're not supposed to, but yeah.
So you're still having meetings with the team?
Yeah. They usually contact me. Yeah.
Offline?
Yeah.
Still watching?
Yeah.
I've never heard of the app. What was the app?
Signal. Yeah. Everybody's using it.
So you're avoiding Elon's team. What they're doing. What if you were to find out?
Then it might be like 25.75. Everyone's like, what are you going to do if they put you on leave? I'm like, go to the beach on the taxpayer's dime.
Oh, yeah, see? That's what they think of you at the Department of Education. Let's see what this guy thinks. Jamal, he looks like he's fired up.
Need them. We don't need the Department of Education. We don't need them. You see this right here? If you don't know what this is, you are an example. We don't need the Department of Education. If you don't know this on my shirt is older than the Department of Education, you're a Democrat. This is older than the Department of Education. This on my shirt is older than the Department of Education. You Democrats overplayed your hand. You pushing the trans stuff on the children. You turned around. You was pushing the pronouns. You was pushing your political agenda in education to where people see you for what you are. And, oh yeah, real quick. Don't start talking about the price of eggs January the 21st if you won't talking about the price of eggs December the 21st. If you won't talking about gas prices back November the 1st, don't talk to me about gas prices March the 1st, 2025. If you won't speaking about inflation, eggs, paycheck issues, 2024, then don't talk to me about it now, March 2025. We see you for what you are and what you're doing. You're not going to fool us. You're Democrats. You just don't want Trump winning. You don't want Doge winning. And you dang sure don't want Elon Musk winning. We don't.
He's right on point. Did you guys know spending in the Department of Education has only gone up, but the reading and math scores have gone down? Look at that. There it is. I'll make it big for you. Look at that. In 2012, $68.1 billion spent. 2022, $76.4. And look at this. Look at the side by side. 4.1% down in the age for math from 2012 to 2022. Age of 9 reading, 2012, 2022, down 2.7% with all that money being spent. So you tell me, is it worth it? The average bureaucrat, did you know this? The Department of Education makes over twice as much money as teachers in Indiana. That I didn't know.
Coming because I guess you could say that President Trump and Secretary Linda McMahon are dropping the people's elbow on the bureaucracy at the Federal Department of Education. And Dana, it's a long time coming because consider that the average bureaucrat at the Federal Department of Education makes over twice as much money as teachers in Indiana do. And when you talk about the $100 billion budget for the entire department, think about the schools that you could build, the teachers you can hire. That's what President Trump is doing. He's sending these dollars back to the states so that they can spend them in a much wiser and more effective way than the federal government can. This has been a long time coming. You're right. Congress has to cement it. We should eliminate and abolish the department and make these cuts permanent and let states keep that money instead of sending it to Washington.
So we wanted to show. Let the states keep the money. That's what it's about. Let the states deal with it. That's how the Constitution was structured. And that's exactly what President Trump wants.
Biden's last, they're not doing a good job. And if you take a look at our education process, and if you look at the charts, because they have numerous charts where they do the top 40, we're at number 37, 38, 39, and 40. And recently they hit, during Biden's last few days, they hit last. So they were number 40, and yet we're number 1 in cost per pupil. So it's pretty bad. But we have a dream. And you know what the dream is? We're going to move the Department of Education. We're going to move education into the states so that the states, instead of bureaucrats working in Washington, so that the states can run education. And they're not doing.
Let the states run education. So the Department of Education has been failing America's children since Jimmy Carter created it as a political favor to the teachers' unions. And since its founding in 1979, test scores have plummeted while spending has skyrocketed. We now spend more per student than almost any other developed nation, yet our results are mediocre at best. This is not a funding problem, it's a structural problem. Kevin O'Leary and Scott Jennings pointed out the dismal performance of our current system, while Congressman Burgess Owens exposed the hypocrisy of those testifying against school choice. They went to private school themselves. The education establishment wants one set of rules for their children and another for yours. President Trump is finally doing what generations of parents have begged for, giving power back to the states and back to the families. So I ask you, you can reply in the comments, is America's education system beyond repair? Or is Trump's plan to dismantle the Department of Education exactly what we need? I want to hear your thoughts. Make sure you tap the link down in the description to grab a hat for the next news network. I want to see you wearing it on the streets, or maybe a t-shirt, or maybe a MAG Avengers shirt with Elon and Ron Paul on it, or MAG Avengers hat. Link down below.